Hi everyone, welcome into the Intrinsic School of Feng Shui, and no matter where you are on this journey with us, co-founder Steve Kodad and myself, Lisa Alvin, we felt it very important to share with those that we're mentoring and training and also the community at large to help dispel any rumors or misperceptions about the practice of Feng Shui and the profession of Feng Shui. There is a lot of them out there, and this module touches on many of them. And so we're here to bring your mind at ease. I'm going to talk about many of these myths that you can stop believing today. And Steve Kodad and myself know for a fact Feng Shui is actually very much common sense, and it is very practical. When used properly, it can help you in many ways to become more successful in life, more joyful, more prosperous. Let's get started knocking out these rumors. The first of which we hear often is lucky bamboo is really important. I love lucky bamboo, don't get me wrong. And much of what I buy isn't actually lucky bamboo. If you're buying your bamboo from the hardware store, it's perfectly fine. The intention is there, but what you're buying might not actually be a lucky bamboo. In Feng Shui, lucky bamboo and water fountains are tools that you can use in your home to help manipulate the Feng Shui energy or life chi contained within your environment. Lucky bamboo is representative of the wood element, one of the 5 elements of nature that we evaluate as Feng Shui practitioners and professionals. It represents growth, fast-growing growth, flexibility, kindness, fortitude. Think of bamboo as you see it growing freely in a garden, and how no matter how much that wind blows, the bamboo remains strong, strength, and grows fast and flourishes. That is the energy of the wood element, and that is what we evaluate as professionals. When in fact, you can represent this energy with most types of living plants, not just lucky bamboo. And as for that water fountain we're talking about as another tool you can use, moving water such as fountains can invoke a flow of energy and prosperity into your home, and is also very nourishing of the wood element. The key to good Feng Shui is mindfulness and intention. Plants and moving water can invite good Feng Shui when placed with skillfulness and intention. This means that you should know what you're doing in the Feng Shui realm and back it up with your action in the everyday life realm. For example, if you read somewhere you can add a water fountain for more wealth, first research how specifically to obtain and place the fountain correctly for your situation. Then take excellent care of it, keep it clean, working well, make sure that it's indeed flowing, and simultaneously start planting those real seeds in the real world to help you earn more wealth. It's not just about placing the cures, it's about tying those cures with your life actions. Connecting the heaven, which is what we call the transcendental, with earth, which is what we refer to as the mundane, for good Feng Shui. The second most popular thing we hear as professionals is your bed must face your lucky direction or you're doomed. And you can imagine with everyone having their lucky direction determined by their birth date, that when in a household, you're going to have conflicting lucky directions. Can you imagine the quarrels this might have happened in today's Western world in particular, where both the male and the female are seen as equal partners, and want to make sure they're both equal successes. It can cause quite confusion and a lot of doubt. And here's a good story that we want to share with you that Professor Lin Yun, the Grandmaster of BTB Feng Shui, which is one of the schools of thought that we highly regard, he used to tell a story about how he was invited to a grand dinner as an esteemed guest, and the whole event was to celebrate him. And they wanted to regard him as a Feng Shui master that he was. And the practitioners seated him at the large banquet table in his lucky direction. And Grandmaster Professor Lin Yun acknowledged that their intentions were quite thoughtful and considerate. However, throughout that entire dinner, he had much of the contents of his food spilled on him because there was a door behind him that kept swinging open, and the servers kept bumping into his chair, and it was not, in fact, very comfortable. He didn't feel very secure. And on the mundane level, the earth level, this was very unfavorable and goes against our school of thought in landform school. And with that in mind, the landform school always highly regards the command position, and that's what we prefer to work with the most, the power position, or the commanding position, in which you are placing your bed against a solid wall, most ideally with visibility of the door and visibility to either side. And this locates you in the most advantageous placement within a room. And has to be, of course, very common sense and practical, and it has to work for you. Your front door must be red is another favorite misperception that we hear a lot. Red is a very auspicious color in Feng Shui. It protects and it can invite prosperity. However, that does not mean that you have to paint your front door red, or else everyone would have red front doors. I choose a bright coral color, almost red, for my own at this time, but I'm thinking about changing it to yellow, in fact. All that matters is that your entrance is welcoming, attractive, bright, and can easily be seen. Colors have different meanings and effects, and there can be other energies you choose to invite into your home, and some people may benefit from a color other than red. You might be one. It depends on the individual and the situation and the chi of the people living in the home. And that chi, if you are a student of ours, you understand that is life force energy, your aura, everything around you. And I myself, I personally choose to, as I'm repainting my home every 5 to 10 years, I love to change it up and attract new energy. Another favorite one is plants and flowers are bad feng shui in the bedroom. Different schools have conflicting perspectives on this topic, and Steve and I, being members of the International Feng Shui Guild, are friends with practitioners from various schools of thought. And we recognize that there are some viewpoints where it's perhaps thought that plants and flowers are too energizing for the bedroom. Examine your energy, your personal chi requirements for your sleep needs. If you have trouble sleeping, is it really because of a plant? Try taking that plant out and see if it makes a difference. It's also best to test things out on your own to see what your intuition tells you. Again, going back to common sense. We refer back to intuition and intention every time, but this misperception about plants, we come to terms with often. Steve and I both love plants and teach about the many benefits of having plants inside to help clean an environment, to look beautiful, to help raise a vibe. Oftentimes, plants and flowers can bring in positive life energy into bedrooms. Green plants bring in the elemental qualities of wood, as you can imagine, such as healing and growth and human heartedness. Fresh cut flowers bring in joy and uplifting chi, just as long as you're keeping them fresh and that water clean. And there are even some rituals that we have been handed down that involve placing several plants within a bedroom for certain occasions. Feng Shui is just about rearranging furniture. We hear this a lot too when we're having that discussion with people that we network with. Tell me about Feng Shui. So you just rearrange furniture. Can you tell me about the arrangement of furniture in my office? There's a good chance that you'll end up moving some things around in your home when you're working with a consultant or reading up on Feng Shui. And while the arrangement of furniture is certainly a good part of Feng Shui, it's just a small slice of the pie. Feng Shui is concerned with the flow of energy around your space. It matters more how you are positioned in a space when you are in bed or seated at your desk, but it's much more than that. It's a practice to connect with and be mindful of the energy within an environment. This includes your spirit, body, home, the land in which the building is situated, the community you're surrounding, and the planet. It is much more holistic. Another misperception we hear a lot and we see in the industry is Feng Shui costs a lot of money. Feng Shui exists in many price ranges. There are countless Feng Shui adjustments, and yes, some of them require purchasing something new, but there are plenty of options that are including meditation or practice space that cost nothing, cost a little bit of your time and energy and learning. And also you can get creative. If you need a new plant for some growth in an area of your life, you can venture into nature and find yourself cutting to cultivate. And that's something that we do in my house quite often is taking a snipping from our tree and bringing in some of the lovely, most perfect color orange, poppy colored orange from our property into our home. And it really lifts the vibes quite nicely. There is a natural abundance all around, and really that is at the heart of Feng Shui, is the appreciation for the natural elements and the study and evaluation of nature and how that can help us come to understand how and why we are making decisions in our lives. And this is also true for hiring a consultant. You can find a student, or you can save up your money and go and make that decision to work with an acclaimed, high-demand Feng Shui consultant, or you can spend your time reading books and researching on your own. What you receive is a mirror of what you give. Just like chi of life, energy is also all about energy. It's not about the money, it's about your intention and generosity. It's an exchange of energy. And we find that true time and time again. Feng Shui, it is very challenging to navigate on your own. And even as a professional, I also often reach out to my colleagues and share stories of my own life environment and my own surroundings to make sure that I'm up to speed and I'm cultivating the best energy I can for myself. There is no one person in Feng Shui more powerful than another, but you'll find in researching and trying to navigate this on your own, the muddy waters that you can get yourself into, running into misperceptions, just like these that we're covering in today's modules, that can really leave you feeling lost and doubtful, and that is the exact opposite of what we're asking you and what we are going to ask our clients to expect in practicing Feng Shui. Feng Shui is all about finding clarity, based on understanding and manipulating the energy of our environments, based on what Mother Nature teaches us every day, the common sense. There's no hemming and hawing over what should I do, what color should I choose, what material goes best, because we're always guided back to nature, and therein lies the true and correct answer every time. Just taking our ego out of the situation. And we hear a lot that Feng Shui it's too woo, and it's magic, and it's going against my religion. Feng Shui is very much common sense, and a lot of changes are to represent a change. Represent a change in your life journey is so important. If something feels uncomfortable, there are normally other ways to handle a situation that may resonate with you. So when you're meeting with a consultant, or if you are a consultant recommending changes, there are other avenues that you can take to achieve the same end result that might resonate better with yourself or your client. And much of Feng Shui is based on practical methods combined with common sense that has been shown to work over a long period of time. There is no, magic per se, but when you get all of the pieces lined up together in harmony, your own personal energy and chi with your surrounding environment, and aligning those energies with your life goals, it can be very powerful. It can feel almost instantaneous, in fact, but alas, it's not magic. It requires work. It requires your intention. It requires some investment of time. It requires you planting those seeds and putting things into motion, getting momentum behind your projects and your goals. It is very much common sense and practical. And we, Steve and I, in our consultations, get a lot of questions. We receive a lot of information about directions. And people have the misperception that direction always needs to be considered. Not all schools of Feng Shui use direction or believe that it is important. This is not a technique that we use in our school because we believe the armchair positioning is more effective, and we've seen it more effective. In fact, it's simpler than being concerned with all of the directions and the changes and the lunar cycles. And the only thing that we might consider within our placement being more important is the consideration of light. So whether your home is in east or west facing or south or north facing has a lot to do with how the light is going to impact. And that goes back to placement within land form Feng Shui. So some clients who are interested in Feng Shui and new to this art are confused about what is important and what is not. And it's important that as a professional consultant, you clarify and set the expectations and to a client and explain to them your methods and why we're not going to be concerned so much with direction other than how the lighting may affect you within each environment, within your home, within the exterior. And that's perfectly okay and seen quite often in more Western Feng Shui. The use of symbols, figurines, and objects are necessary. All consultants at times prescribe or recommend adjustments that are objects to represent a goal or a process. And these are not the only way to remind a person of the result. They themselves are not hugely important. What's important is the intention. So what a consultant is trying to do is to merge an object and placement and connect that, merge it with the goal. So intention and keeping a goal in mind is so much more important than the use of items that are symbolic, or using the laughing Buddha or other figurines that are symbolic and culturally esteemed. Although I admit I love many of these symbols. I love the celestial animals, I love Buddhas and all the art behind it, but that's because I love them for the art. And I'm able to connect my intention with these objects. They're not necessary though. You can find other symbols, you can find other shapes, and use what is going to look and make sense, look aesthetically well and make sense for your home. Many clients can go overboard with purchasing all of these items and thinking that they're going to buy a money tree and cultivate money, or the laughing Buddha, and be more welcoming of their guests, or the food dogs, and so on and so forth. But they're not necessary. They can be quite lovely, but we don't want to come off, we don't want to create a cluttered environment and work against ourselves and impede energy flow. So limit the use, control your impulses. If you have too many, give some away as gifts. They're quite lovely. And I've mentioned this a little bit earlier, and you've probably heard it before. And similarly, I've had these conversations with practitioners in yoga too, where people have come to them and said, I cannot practice Feng Shui. It goes against my religion. And similarly, yoga practitioners have had the same conversation with people. I can't practice. It goes against my religion. I've had it come up as a concern in workshops before, one-on-one situations. And no. Feng Shui is not a religion. And this confusion limits a lot of people from experiencing more success and more joy and more comfort in their spaces. Anytime you ask a person to use intention or a mantra, you'll have someone that is questioning if this mantra or mudra goes against their faith. And it is a way of looking at any environment and trying to make it more conducive for success. And we always go back to comfort and security. BTB Feng Shui is one of the schools that we follow, and it has the word Buddhist. Black sect, Tibetan Buddhist Feng Shui. And it's important to be able to communicate to a client the history of BTB and how it separates it from the religion. And Steve and I talk about this also too. Often in BTB Feng Shui, Tibetan is traded out for the word tantric. And really, those words and misunderstandings of the words can cause a resistance. But what BTB Feng Shui is all about is making Feng Shui more accessible to everyone in the world. We are all born with a great understanding of our intentions and our intuition. And BTB Feng Shui uses these very primal abilities that we all have. And no matter what your religion, it could be any religion, but these are innate things that we're born with. These abilities when we're able to sense that something feels off, or something feels stagnant, or something feels safe and welcoming. It has nothing to do with religion. It's very much a way of life. There are Christian practitioners and Buddhist philosophy, Christian Buddhist, any Jewish and any kind of religion out there, you'll find Feng Shui, and it doesn't exclude anybody. Feng Shui is just interior design, and this is a hard one for people to break free of. Yes, a lot of practitioners do have an intuitive sense of interior design because it's just common sense. And we have an art and appreciation and an understanding of spatial design. And Feng Shui is so much more than just interior design. It's not even interior design. If interior design could be up a level, if people could understand that, interior design is just a branch of Feng Shui, because Feng Shui is a science and an art. And it's an old environmental science that looks at our environments in many ways. And it's not just about an interior. We're always evaluating a radius around the landform itself, and the exterior energy that is coming within a space. It has a higher involvement of evaluation and consideration that goes into a consultation than just the interior. An interior design is just one of the things that a Feng Shui professional may take into consideration in creating that beautiful sacred space. But it's just a small fraction, although it is for everyone's favorite part, I think, is to have that interior design. And it's just a small part of the equation of what makes a house a home, or what makes an office feel like a brand, or a space feel welcoming or not. And I've touched on this earlier. A lot of people believe that you have to be Chinese to work with Feng Shui. And we, if you are one of our students, a member of our Intrinsic School of Feng Shui, you may have seen another module that explains how other countries follow an art and science very similar with other names. One of them being Vastu. If you are Indian, you may be familiar with that. And there are experts all over the planet evaluating the energy of environments and spaces who are not Chinese. There's no race, religion, background, or gender type that is typical to this profession. It's often just a calling to being a Feng Shui expert. If your house isn't Feng Shui, you have to remodel or move. No. I see this a lot on Feng Shui boards where people are shopping for a new house because their house isn't Feng Shui, deemed Feng Shui by a professional. It's missing a space, or it has a feature that isn't Feng Shui. You don't have to remodel or move. One of the great things about Feng Shui is there are practical cures, remedies that we can put into place, that we can improve the energy and transform it. It may take a little bit of maintenance on your part, but that's not a bad thing. In fact, I live in a 1950s cottage beach house that many of the homes built during this time have qualities about it that aren't very Feng Shui. But I wouldn't trade this property or the land for anything. I'm missing the wealth and prosperity corner, but I've created the most beautiful Feng Shui cures and invited my family in cultivating this area to make sure that we're maintaining the abundance and prosperity that we need to help sustain and support us. And it's become a lovely ritual of us to plant the flowers and build that plant shelf, and I love to use crystals, and we use crystals in this area, and the children are involved, and that brings the most lovely abundance and prosperity. We don't have to move. We don't have to remodel, although that is something that we have in our future plans. There are times that a cure may not be enough to make an environment whole, balanced, and successful. And we covered some problem houses. And these types of environments may initiate a move, but not always. There are ways that you can work with the energy to make it optimal for you. Just takes a little bit of extra work. And if your house isn't Feng Shui, you have to remodel or move. No. There are times, let me just cover that one. There is no place for modern or electronic devices in Feng Shui. That is such an unfortunate misperception, because Feng Shui keeps evolving. When Grandmaster Professor Lin Yun came to the West and brought his version in the 1980s, things like electricity and other modern inventions were recognized and shown to be represented in Feng Shui. So we can use things like lights, and we can use things like TVs. These things weren't around when Feng Shui originated, and now they're used as Feng Shui cures and recognized as ways to manipulate energy and direct energy. And many of these items can be cures themselves or bring in an element that may be missing. Modern Feng Shui has kept up with the world. Feng Shui has many techniques, but some ideas being presented to the public are false. So make sure, friends, that you're doing work of that is true and recognizing it to help clarify and put aside any of these rumors and misperceptions of Feng Shui, because rest assured what you do is very practical. It is very much common sense. Everyone can have access to it, and that's why we love it. Thank you so much for staying tuned in throughout this module, and we can't wait to see you in our next one and keep this knowledge flowing. I'm Lisa with the Intrinsic School of Feng Shui. Steve, Kodad, and myself are happy to be your mentors in this practice, and if you're choosing to join this profession, we are so happy to have you. I look forward to seeing you again soon.